Welcome back. President Cyril Ramaphosa says small businesses must take advantage of the African Continental Free Trade area. He was speaking at a small business development seminar for SMMEs benefiting from government programs. Ramaphosa says the small business sector is expected to help the country's aim of creating 11 million jobs by 2030. He says government will support the SMME sector with debt relief schemes, a township and rural entrepreneurship program, and access to market programs. This is what the president says, but let's get you some analysis now with Mxolisi Matshamba. He's the CEO of the Small Enterprise Finance Agency, and he was at that seminar. He joins us now via our video line. Mxolisi, good morning. Thanks so much for coming onto the show. We've had several discussions since the budget speech around particularly the issue of government support of SMMEs. One of the issues that the president, for example, has talked about is the issue of debt relief schemes. But we know that even with those kinds of schemes, small businesses that have needed the help have been unable to access the help because of continuous red tape. I mean, what the president says is one thing. How it translates in the SMME sector is completely a different story. All right, we apologize for that. We seem to be battling with our audio connection there with Mxolisi Matshamba. We're going to try and get him back on the line, and we'll bring you that discussion in just a moment. And it does appear he is back on the line to us. Mxolisi, can you hear me now?
Yes, loud
or rather,
and clear,
can I hear you? Yes, there we go. All right, so we were discussing the issues around, what the president says government will do to support SMMEs and what is the reality on the ground.
Yes. Good morning, Michelle, once again to you and your viewers, and thank you for having us. In our engagement yesterday with the President and the Minister of Small Business Development, the issues and the challenges that are facing small, medium enterprises and your co-ops were flagged. And the government took a decision to assist, particularly during the hardcore lockdown that started in March 26, around about last year. We quickly came up with interventions as an agency of the small business development to assist the SMMEs that were struggling, actually, particularly with sustaining their operations. And the government set aside 513 million rands that was given to SIFA to actually assist these businesses to pay for their operating costs, like your rates, your water, electricity, salaries, and also to procure stock to sustain the operations of their businesses. Out of the 513 million rands that was set aside, we were able as SIFA to disburse 316 million rands of the debt, what we call the debt relief programs that was targeting the SMMEs. And that money actually assisted to save about 23,000 jobs. Beyond that, we went further and said for all our clients that were having loans with SIFA, we're going to give them a 6-month moratorium of payment for interest and capital. That meant actually that SIFA had to forgo 105 million rands of repayments over this period. And that saved again another 37,000 jobs. Beyond that 530 million rands, the debt relief program, government went further. And we came in and said, we're going to come up with another program to support SMMEs in rural and township areas. And in that area, we targeted what we call your spaza shops, which is one of the entities that were hit hard by the lockdown, because remember, they were not allowed to operate during the first round of the hardcore lockdown. And we then provided them with grants and to the tune of about 10,000 rands. And we also provided support to butcheries and your what we call the people who sell the vegetables in the streets. We gave them a grant. And we also had support for your open air kitchens that people sell food in the streets, 7,000 rands, of which 3,500 rands was a grant. And we also went further and we said, we needed now to assist these businesses. Now that we are emerging with the rollout of the vaccine, out of the lockdown and the virus being contained, businesses now need to get up, manage their operations, drive their businesses, but they don't have working capital because they've not been trading fully. What we've done this month, Michelle, we've set aside as government 300 million rands of what we call business viability program. Through the business viability program, we're saying businesses now that are actually in the main, in our books, we cannot get back to their feet. We'll provide them additional support to actually get them back on their feet with the access to this working capital. We are actually have approached these businesses, we've written to them to say, come to CIFA and they will assist you with getting back on your feet. One of the issues that the president just launched, actually, I think 3 weeks ago, is what we call the Tourism Equity Fund. In that space, Michelle, we're trying to say, there's an opportunity now for previously disadvantaged communities to own into the tourism sector. We're working here with the Department of Tourism, and we've established a fund together with CIFA and the commercial banks to the tune of 1.2 billion rands. The banks are coming with about 590 million rands. The department has set aside, that is the Department of Tourism, 540 million rands. And CIFA, we're putting additional funding to provide the support to these SMMEs who want to get ownership into the tourism sector, and also existing SMMEs who want to upgrade and expand their tourism-related businesses so that once we start opening up, they are ready to run. Remember, studies show us that one of the fastest sectors of the economy that are going to pick up post-COVID is the tourism sector. And when that time happens, we need to be ready and also have our people participating, because the ownership structures of the tourism sector, they favor the previously advantaged communities of our country. And we want to address those imbalances by bringing these interventions in place, Michelle.
Mxolisi, I want to ask you, I mean, it's great to hear that some of the interventions that you've put in place have managed to save tens of thousands of jobs in the SMME sector. But I want to ask you about those businesses that have not been able to survive, particularly because they've not been able to access the kind of help that government says is available, the kind of help government is trying to make available, particularly post-COVID-19. What about those businesses? What can they do if they are now essentially not able to operate, perhaps to start operating again? How do we revive those who were not able to make it through the pandemic?
Yes, remember what we've said, we've got this business viability program that we launched of about 300 million. That one, for start, is to protect the businesses that are already in our loan book so that they don't collapse. The next phase is to now say we need to secure funding to actually assist those businesses that are now flat and out to get back on their knees. And we're engaging the department to say, we need to set aside some funding for that purpose. And it's a program that I hope we'll be able to launch in the new financial year. We'll engage the treasurer and the department, because the pace that we have now of 300 million is only enough for the ones that are in our book. But I know we're going to be actually getting that assistance. And also the National Empowerment Fund, which is our sister organization, has launched the fund that is also assisting businesses in distress within the sector that we operate. So we'll be coming with more and more of those interventions. But we do have our own existing products as CIFA, where we provide blended finance to businesses that approach us. We'll be willing to actually look at those businesses, and we're going to be aggressively going out through our regional offices and the partnerships that we have with our intermediaries to say to businesses, come and pitch. We look at those businesses and we see how can we assist them. Because remember, we can give you working capital and give you the moratorium of 6 months to allow you to start operating without the pressure of debt, to having to refinance the debt from CIFA. So we're ready with our existing products, but we'll be introducing more products to assist these businesses to get back on their feet. For now, the business viability program is to also assist the ones that are in our books that are struggling, so that we don't lose all the taxpayers' money that has been committed to those businesses. Then phase 2 is to open it up, like the NEF has done, the National Empowerment Fund, which is our sister DFI. This has launched a fund, I think it's about 10 billion, to assist distressed businesses. And we're going to be coming up as government through the DFIs to aggressively get these businesses back on their feet, because we need those jobs back. We need those people to be active in the economy. And it is our mandate as DFIs to get that going.
Yeah, a big part of the target of 11 million additional jobs by 2030 rests within the SMME sector. Mxolisi, before we let you go, we don't have a lot of time left, but I want you to just talk about the issues around commercial banks and the challenges that small businesses face in accessing funding. We've heard a lot of stories on our show, commercial banks, in the experience of these small businesses, changing the criteria that is needed for businesses to access this life-saving debt relief. How does CIFA engage, perhaps if it does, with commercial banks and with SMMEs to try and work through that kind of red tape?
Yes. Now, what we do from our side, we've got what is called Khula Guarantee Scheme. We work with commercial banks to guarantee the debt that they give to SMMEs. And people must not confuse the Khula Guarantee Scheme and the new 200 billion rands COVID guarantee scheme that is managed by the Treasury. No, we are not managing the 200 billion. We're managing our own 300 million of the Khula Guarantee Scheme, which we are rolling out already. And our rules are clear to the banks that you shall prioritize SMMEs that are previously majority owned by the previously disadvantaged. That program is working. We've got high demand and we're rolling it out. So when we engage the commercial banks, in fact, now we'll be announcing in the new financial year, new relationships that we are actually expanding with the commercial banks, where we say we're going to use the Khula Guarantee Scheme to provide guarantees to the loans that we provide to SMMEs. And most of the banks have approached us. We're just taking these things to the board for internal approvals so that come the 1st of April this year, we roll out those guarantees. So we're working with the banks. Our mandate is clear as development finance institutions. There's a market failure. That market failure is the unwillingness of commercial banks to provide credit to SMMEs. Yep. And that's where we come in as development finance to address that market failure. And we say to the banks, come and work with us. We'll provide the credit guarantee so that you are able to extend credit to SMMEs in areas where we're unable to reach as the DFIs. So that work is ongoing. And then I'm going to appeal, don't confuse the 200 billion. We're not managing the 200 billion as CIFA. We're managing the 300 billion Khula credit guarantee. Right. And we're rolling it out with the commercial banks. And we're going to be extending it further beyond the end of this financial year, which is March. Come April, we're announcing new relationships with additional commercial banks to extend that guarantee to SMMEs, working with the commercial banks.
And just a quick check from your side for small businesses who are watching this interview and want to access this kind of life-saving funding, they can head on over to your website. It is sefa.org.za. Is that correct?
Correct. And they can also go to help@sefa.org.za. help@sefa.org.za, or they can also visit our website, which is www.sefa.org.za.
Mxolisi Matshamba, thank you very much for your time this morning. Great to chat to you. He is the CEO of the Small Enterprise Finance Agency.